Welcome back to another video. It's Akhil. I'm a real estate agent in the Los Angeles area, and these videos are basically going over my journey, my creative journey of life, and I'm documenting. And basically, I'll share everything I learned from all sorts of facets and places, mainly real estate. Anyway, so in this video, we're going to be going over a lot of variety of topics, especially a lot that I've learned and a lot that I've implemented in the past in the past couple weeks. So yeah, let's go over it. And yeah, all right, let's start with iterations over time spent. Iterations, time spent. What are you saying? Well, I'll explain it now. So in my opinion, this is my thought process. This is my opinion on the definition of iteration. I don't know the actual one, so I'm just going to tell you my opinion on what I think it is. So what I think it is let's just say you're like making rice or something. Okay, the first day you make rice, and you make it just the way on the instructions, and you have a nice rice and you eat it. Okay, the second day you're like, you know what, let me change something, maybe it'll taste better. So you iterate, so you change something, you add more salt, or you add extra water, or you cook it for longer, whatever, you change something, and you get a different result, right? And it could be better, it could be worse, but if it's worse, then you learn, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that next time, let's try this instead. And then eventually, if you do enough iterations, you get better and better and better, right? The trajectory is like, okay, I stop the mistakes, and I incorporate the improvements for next time. And so that's iterations over time spent. So what that's supposed to mean is what I've been doing in door knocking, right? This, I guess, directly relates to door knocking, some open house stuff too, is I was spending a lot of time, right, just doing the same thing over and over again without iterating. So I was learning, but I wasn't actually like really maximizing the amount I could learn at a single period of time, right? So like if I have like in door knocking right now, if I have like a script, right? If I'm not changing the script, right? I don't know what scripts could work better. I don't know what scripts could work. If I'm doing the same thing over and over again, it's not. I'm not iterating. I'm not growing. I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. Like just if there's like a field, I'm just pulling the same field over and over and over again, not changing anything. It's like there's no point, right? So that's what the main lesson that I'm trying to say is I've been incorporating more iterations and changes into what I've been doing. So it's like, okay, instead of just doing the same thing over and over again, let's change this every so often just to see if we get better results or worse results and what we can do there so we can improve and get even better results in the long term. Being more creative on my own rather than copying. All right, this is a big one actually. So what does that mean? So that means coming up with my own ideas for changes, right? It gets really easy to just like, you have a problem, so you just Google it, and then you just like, you just, whatever the answer is right there, you just use that, right? Like if it's like, okay, well, what's the best post for a real estate agent? Let me just Google it. Okay, what can I post as a real estate agent? And then the first 3 ideas you see, you're like, that's it, I'm gonna do it, boom, boom, boom. But the thing is, like, that's just essentially like, you're not actually being creative, you're not actually being authentic. And I think, in my opinion, what is the most successful in any realm of human endeavor is being the most authentic to yourself. So, which means like you're coming up with your own solution, you're iterating on your own, and based on that, you're coming up with better and better ideas over time, right? If you always just turn to Google for your best idea, then you're not really growing the portion of your brain, the skill of actually creating good ideas and executing on great ideas that you created yourself. So I've been more incorporating like, okay, I have this thing. Okay, I want to create a new script. I want to do this new post. Okay, what are some ideas that I can come up with on my own? Okay, let's just list down 10 ideas real quick. Let's just see, boom, 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 boom. Okay, maybe this actually looks good. This doesn't look good. Okay, this makes sense. This doesn't make sense. Going like that, right? And then and I think that process is a lot better than just like Googling it and then just taking it word for word or just going onto somebody else's page and just copying exactly what they're doing. Because what brought them success is not exactly going to bring you success, right? It's like in in certain like things they say product market fit. I think in my specific industry would be like you are like the person is the product, right? Like the real estate agent would be the product, and then the market fit. So it's like if you copy exactly what somebody else is doing, it's not going to fit the market because you're not them, right? You have to find your own basically like niche, or you have to find your own authenticity, and that you'll find your own market if you're actually being authentic. Otherwise, you're just like you're not going to get anywhere, in my opinion. So hope that was conveyed properly. Okay, on to the next. Open houses. All right, so this is an area that I feel like now I'm realizing is a lot more valuable than what I thought before. So in the last 2 weeks, I've held 4 open houses, so two on each day. And from those open houses, I met like a decent amount of people, and I feel like I may have gotten a couple buyers out of that, maybe one that I really feel like, okay, this could actually like possibly turn into something. They're getting pre-approved, they're like interested in making offers, stuff like that. So basically, I negated originally. If you probably go back to one of my other videos, I have in the past said open houses are a waste of time. Well, I take that back. This is progressive learning here, and yeah, that was definitely a total mistake. So it seems like it's a waste of time until it's like when you get the 1,000 no's, it's just like, okay, this is obviously never going to work. But once you get the one yes, it's like, oh shit, wow, okay, that's how it is. You should have paid attention and actually done the open houses. So yeah, I think the open houses are definitely good, and I've done a lot of changing in terms of like what I'm doing and how I approach the open houses. So the first thing is I've been trying to double up on every week, so at least 2 open houses on every week, and also the 2 open houses they can't be different like open houses. They have to be the same property because otherwise it's really operationally complex to have the 6 signs, right, or whatever, however many of signs I have, and then on the sign I always print out a flyer or like a printout like a thing that has the address and the open from 1 to 4 or whatever 1 to 5, and I put that inside the like plastic film. So basically, like anybody driving by can see the address, so they're like, "Oh, okay, the open house is." Not only does it point the direction, but it also says the address in case they want it. So the if I have that for one day, then I have to replace all of them again for the second day, and that's not the only thing. I also have to print double sets of flyers for like just the open house materials for 2 different days and 2 different open houses, and I have to, it's just like a total operationally complex thing. Whereas if I just do 2 open houses on a weekend on the same property, I just leave the same flyers. All the materials are exactly the same, and I can just leave that there. It's only 1 day's worth of setup, and then at the end of it, it's just 1 day. I just have to remove everything, so it's just operationally a lot easier. I guess that's like such a, it's like that's such a weird problem, but that's something I learned. Um, and also, I've been trying to make sure I actually try to get at least 1 or 2 open houses every single weekend. 6 to 7 open houses a month is the goal. So if there's 4 weeks in a month, obviously that means 3 weeks of 2-day open houses, and then maybe 1 day on the last weekend that I hold an open house. I think it's also important to have like days where you don't necessarily have like a dedicated plan. Like, okay, I do door knock 5 days a week or 4 days a week, but I think sometimes every couple of weeks it's good to have just like that one blank day where you just go back and you're like, okay, let's just review everything I've been doing. Let's just assess, okay, what can be changed, what can be improved. That type of thing I think is actually very helpful, and I've done that. The rain actually forced me to do that because I couldn't go outside to door knock. So there was like 2 days of rain, and yeah, I basically just reviewed everything I was doing. I found a lot of places that needed improvement. Yeah, so in the review, specifically for open houses, I found that I just need to be more prepared, actually understand what it is that I need to do, and the goal of each interaction that I have in the open house is to make a good impression. Because what I noticed from all of my open house contacts is that it's more about just making a good impression at the start. And the people will naturally like start to talk to you. They'll text you instead of you having to text them. But if you don't make that good of an impression at the start, even if they leave the correct contact information and they don't have an agent, most of the time it's just like you call them every single day for the next 7 days and they don't pick up. You also text them and then they just don't respond. And then eventually after 2 weeks, they're like, hey, I'm not interested anymore. It's like, you have to make a good impression at the start. And that's the only way, in my opinion, that you can actually, have an actual relationship that turns into a potential client. So that's for open houses. And I'm also going to probably start split testing different open house scripts. The one I currently have, I think I mentioned it before, it's like a Tom Ferry one. It's just like a standard open house, like, hey, welcome in. I'm Akhil with Compass. How'd you hear about the open house? Blah, blah, blah. And then, oh yeah, and then just explain the house, who's your agent, blah, blah. Just it's a very, very simple script. So I may, maybe we'll change it. We'll try a couple different questions, maybe a different intro. I don't know. I want to keep split testing so I can improve, see which works best, which I get the most contacts with. So the thing I also noticed with split testing is like, you can easily get false positives, right? So it's like, okay, I do this test, and then in this, I don't know, like let's just say 10 open houses if I hold with this one with new script. I didn't do this yet, but this is like a hypothetical. In those 10 open houses, unless I do like it has to be a big enough sample size. Like if I just do it for one open house and I test the script, that could have just been I could have just gotten lucky, right? So I have to have like a big sample size in order to actually iterate and properly test the script. And I actually noticed with door knocking, so I'll reference that later. So let's actually get into door knock. As I mentioned in the last video, I went to door knock with one of my coworkers, who's named Danny Azami. As I was saying before, he's one of the greatest natural speakers. He gets along with everyone like super fast. So it was a great lesson when door knocking with them. And also, what I realized, so what I basically just took a back seat, let him do the talking. And what I realized is that I could definitely not copy that, obviously, because it's not gonna fit my personality, right? The way he speaks is not, obviously not. If I can't just like cut and dry, just copy exactly what he says. It's not gonna work, obviously, like that. But there were definitely aspects of it, like, okay, when somebody starts talking about something, and even though initially so this is like a very nuanced one, but so initially, like when somebody opens the door, right, their initial response is like, their just initial brain thought process is like, okay, end the conversation as soon as possible. So they'll just like, throw, oh yeah, yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you, and then even though they potentially may be having some interest in the topic, they will immediately just turn it off because you're door knocking, right? It's just like a sales encounter. So what I noticed from Danny is that he like immediately starts asking, like, if he sees that the lead is potentially there, like as in like, if he sees somebody is like kind of approachable, they're not like, oh yeah, go away, no. But if they're like, oh yeah, yeah, thank you, yeah, this is kind of interesting, oh, like, like that, then he just immediately starts asking questions about them, about their, just like how they've been, the area, blah, blah, something they're interested in, blah, blah. And then boom, it like instantly sparks a conversation. I don't know if I like really worded that correctly, but the way he does it is like instantly goes into conversation and instantly starts relating with them, and basically finds connecting material. So he asks a question, they say a response. He instantly finds connecting material to connect that response to him and asks follow-up questions about that immediately, if that makes sense. And that really connects the conversation. That really connects the conversation, and it makes it like a really good conversation that they just go back and forth. And that's what I was watching, and that's something I need to improve on, because most of the time when somebody responds, I think about the response for an extra couple seconds and then I say something. But in a door knocking scenario, you don't really have that time to think, I guess. It's kind of just like really fast, I guess, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's something I learned. So I need to do that. And I also iterated. So that was the first time I realized, hey, my current script definitely is obviously not as good as it could be. But there's no way I could find how good it could be if I don't iterate. So I just need to change the script repeatedly and then start taking aspects that work from one script and then combining with another and then finding the best script. So from that day forward, or sometime along that time frame, I changed my script for the first time, and now my plan is to change the script every 500 doors. So I've already changed the script twice, right? So the first script was, obviously, I've already spoken about that one, and the second script was I changed it to, hey, I'm Akhil with Compass. I'm a real estate agent in the area. I just wanted to give you guys some information about your neighborhood. And then I would give them the information, and then while I'm giving it to them, I would say, if you guys have any questions about the market, I'd be happy to help in any way I can. And then after I give it to them, I follow up with, do you guys know anyone in the area potentially looking to buy, sell, or even rent? And I asked that. And then that was basically the final question, and then obviously you go from there. So that was like the initial script, right? And then now I changed it to, I did a slight minor adjustment to, hey, I'm Akhil with Compass. I'm a realtor in the area. Just wanted to give you guys some real estate information about your neighborhood. And then I would do the same thing during the script. I would say, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help about the market. I'd be happy to help. I would give it to them. And then I would say, do you currently live in your dream home? That's my current script right now. So this is, so currently in the last 898 doors, I haven't had a single lead. I guess that kind of sounds like, wow, your new scripts must suck. Well, I think the new scripts obviously are not optimal, but they need some work. Need to keep iterating, keep making it better, and obviously that. And I think also, so this is my third time going around the entire area. So since the 898 so far has been my third time around. So my third time around going through the entire farm area. So I've already been once through the entire farm. I've already been twice through the entire farm. And now this is my third time. So I feel like maybe it's not just necessarily the script. It's also the fact that since I've gone through in the last maybe 4 or 5 months 3 times. So since the other two times I've gone, I probably weeded out most of the obvious leads. So now the third time, it's going to be a little bit harder to find the actual leads inside the pool of door knockers, because most of the people already door knocked before. So if they were a lead, most people don't like spontaneously change their mind within 2 months. It's kind of a slower process to sell their home. They're like thinking about it. It's like over a few months. So basically what I'm saying is it may not necessarily just be due to the script. It's also could be due to the circumstances of, the fact that it's the third time around. And yeah, so I'm also cutting out tons of area from my farm. So I started realizing, okay, it's not worth my time to door knock in areas that are shit. By that I mean, so there's certain areas that have like tons of gates, right? I think I mentioned this before. Certain areas that have tons of gates, or the hit rate is just so low. Like I knock on 70 doors, I only talk to like 20 people. That's like a terrible hit rate, right? You want at least 45% to 50% as a hit rate, ideally better, as like people opening the door to. So if I have 100 doors knocked, I want at least 45 to 55 people opening the door at the bare minimum. If 45 to 55 people I'm not speaking to, then there's not even a point of door knocking. I may as well just leave flyers, right? So there's certain areas that are just like shit in that sense that I can't. If I knock on the door, there's not that many people who I get to speak to. So those areas I'm cutting out. There's also areas where there's a ton of gates, and those are areas where it's like you can't even knock on half the doors because they don't have a doorbell, or they're just like totally locked and gated, so you can't even go up. And it also causes problems. Like most of my bad interactions have been like through people where it's like I open the gate and the guys are mad because it's like, oh, why'd you open my gate, blah blah, like just all this. So I think that I've been cutting out all those areas, and I've just been focusing on the areas where I can really just go through and then just start at the top of the street and at the bottom of the street, and I hit like 50 to 60 doors. That way I only have to do 2 streets. I have also been cutting out the areas, even if they are good and they have a good hit rate, I've been cutting out the areas that only have like 20 doors, because then I have to just get into my car again and then drive to the next little street, and that takes another 5 minutes. It's just like wasting time. It's breaking the continuum of momentum that I've been having. So another thing that I've been doing related to door knocking is when assessing an area is taking into account. So I go on to the MLS, which if you don't know what the MLS is, it's essentially like imagine Zillow, but like more in depth, right, for agents. So you can basically, you can see a ton of different information. Just like imagine Zillow, like a lot better. Okay, that's what it is. All right, so I go onto the MLS. Okay, this is what I started doing. Okay, I did this, and I go on there, and I check the street, whatever streets I'm knocking, my entire farm. I check each of the streets individually, and I see, okay, based on this street, how many properties have sold in the last 5 years. Why do I do this? So the reason I'm doing this is because some of the streets that I noticed they're great streets to knock on. There's no gates. There's no problems in breakage. There's not that many duplexes in between. But the problem with the street is I go there and I door knock all like 100 doors at once. And I talk to a lot of people. But the problem is nobody seems to be wanting to buy and sell. And that's not necessarily a problem. But all 3 times if I go there and not a single lead I get from that entire 100 doors or 200 doors in total from a couple streets, there's obviously something like, okay, let me check something. So what I noticed, so specifically what I'm talking about is in Fairfax. So if you know what Fairfax is, it's like an area in Los Angeles, right, in Beverly Grove. If you go to Fairfax, there's 2 streets specifically, Formosa and Detroit Street. On these 2 streets, they're great for knocking and everything, but I went and I checked it on the MLS, and in Detroit Street specifically, there's only 7 sold in the last 5 years, right? And then Formosa, there's like 11. So it's like basically nothing in the last 5 years has sold. And if I go to just a really nearby street, which is literally just 2 to the left, like 2 streets or 1 or 2 streets to the left, on Martel, if I go back and I check the last 5 years, there's like 32 or 33 sold listings in the last 5 years. And they're basically similar in size in terms of streets and the amount of houses. So obviously, the one on Martel is going to be way better to knock on because way more people are going back and forth buying and selling, right? So that's I'm trying to target, like, okay, certain streets are obviously there. The community is just more stable, so they want to stay there more. So I want to target the streets that are more, obviously buying and selling more. And I want to do that, and I want to make sure to target as many of those streets as possible compared to the ones that aren't selling, because I want to maximize my time. So that's also something I've been taking into consideration. I'm going to start reducing the streets that suck and increasing the streets that have a lot of buying and selling in it. And then, so what I wanted to go over as well is a new plan that I have for door knocking. Okay, and that is I'm going to door knock. Okay, so let me just explain this first. So if you take LA, right, Los Angeles, as a nice big circle. I know it's not. Let's just in this theoretical example, it's a big circle. Okay, just like my hand. Okay, this top part right here would be the valley. right? This bottom part right here would be like Los Angeles, which is below the mountains, right? Like the Hollywood Hills and all those mountains, right? So below that. I live in the valley, so it takes me like 45 minutes to get down to here, right? And then it takes an hour to get from here to here, right? So basically almost 2 hours, give or take, a little bit more actually most of the time, it takes to go back and forth, right? And I go all the way over here to Dornoch, and I come all the way back, right? So 2 hours extra on top of the 3 to 3.5 hours it takes to Dornoch. So it's a total of 5.5 hours if I want to go down there in Dornoch. So why do I do this? Why don't I just knock up here right next to me where I live? Why would I drive 45 minutes? That's a great question. In fact, it's a fantastic question. And the reason is here, door knocking, in the areas where the prices are higher in terms of property values, they're really hilly. So right now it takes about, give or take, 3 hours straight, I can hit 100 doors. If I go over here to those hilly neighborhoods, right, that are near me, which is basically, I live in a kind of a hilly area, so all the neighborhoods near me are full of hills. And it takes 4 hours for me to get, like in total, from because I've door knocked in here before. It takes 4 hours for me to actually get to my 100 doors. So it takes an extra hour each time. Okay, there are flat neighborhoods, but they're lower in price, right? And the reason I want to stay at a high price is because in terms of transactions, right, the commission is directly based on the price, right? And the amount of work it takes to do a smaller price transaction and a higher price transaction is exactly the same. So obviously I want to maximize the higher price transactions. In the valley, compared to LA, here the prices are at least 2 to 3 times, even sometimes 4 times higher here, below these mountains, okay? They're significantly higher priced. Here, they're significantly less priced. That's why I've been driving down there. Also, my office is right here in West Hollywood, so I tend to go down there for anything I need there. So that was the decision making in going here. It's just like, okay, I'd rather build a business here, and if I'm going to do consistent sales in the long term, it'd be better to do it in a higher priced area, since that would obviously equate to the exact amount of work for a better reward. And the hit rate is exactly the same, right? The hit rate here is still 1 in 220 for doors, because I tested it, and 1 in 220 here. So why would I waste my time knocking up here, right? And that was the thought process all along. And obviously I'd go down here 3 days, and I would just cold call for 2 days up here. But since cold calling is not an option anymore, and I've been door knocking 5 days a week, going all the way down here 5 days a week, essentially the drive is essentially wasted time. 2 hours a day, which is almost close to 10, 11 hours a week, right? It's just slightly more than 2 hours. That's why I'm saying 11 hours. So 10, 11 hours a week I have to waste to go all the way down here, right? So I've been thinking, okay, realistically, it's fine if I want to go down here 3 days a week, but 2 days a week, I'm going to find a really good spot up here that's flat, that's reasonably priced, that has really good turnover, right? I'm going to check on the MLS, the last 5 years sold. Really good turnover, okay? And something with fewer gates, so that I can go there, knock straight, boom, 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 and get 2 days a week here and 3 days a week here. Hopefully this depiction was helpful. So yeah, that's my new plan, okay? To save like 4 hours a week, 4 to 5 hours a week, right? That's going to save 4 to 5 hours a week. And that time will be used to making more content, doing so many different things, right? Follow-ups, getting other better open houses, all kinds of stuff. There's so many things I could do in that time. And it's kind of just like, I'm just using it driving. What do I do when driving? I mean, the most productive thing you can do is maybe listen to something, I guess. I don't know, listen to some like real estate stuff, real estate interviews. I don't know. I mean, there's really nothing you can do while you're driving. So, and you also don't want to distract yourself, because then you might die. So, yeah. Yeah, that's basically what my new consideration is for the door knocking and how I can save time there. Now, that's basically all the main things. Now I want to go over my analogy that I referenced in the last video. I've been really thinking about this analogy, okay? And now I realize that it was right, but it also needs improvement. So the analogy I came up with in the last video on the spot was that real estate, the 3 main things in real estate, right, which is, in my opinion, lead generation, lead nurture, which is like follow-ups, and content creation, which is like brand awareness, right? And I liken the two to getting the seeds, going out there and finding the seeds and planting them, watering the seed. So going out there and getting the seeds is like lead generation. You're going out and lead generating, you're knocking on doors, holding open houses. That's getting the leads, getting the seeds, and you're planting them. And then watering the seeds would be like follow-ups, right? Like you're calling them, hey, how are you, blah, blah, did you like any of these properties that I sent you, blah, 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 blah. And then texting them, hey, I scheduled blah, blah, this, would you like to blah, blah, like that, right? That's follow-ups, which is the watering of the plants to help them grow, right? And then the third part is adding fertilizer, which is the content. So the content would be like, me posting real estate related content, me posting, sending out mass emails, which is like I do every 3 weeks now. Me, just putting out content as much as possible on Instagram, on X, on all of the platforms. That is the fertilizer, right? It's brand awareness. So these three are what you need to be successful, in my opinion, right? That's my current thesis on this subject, right? But what I forgot to mention is that even though these three are the most important thing, what happens when you do all of these three things is that you get a fourth thing, and that is you get fruits, right? Let's just assume these are fruit trees that I planted, right? You get fruits. And the problem is when you have a ton of fruits, you actually have to pick the fruits, which means you have to have a harvesting time. And the problem is harvesting takes forever. 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 Like forever. Okay? This thing really takes forever, okay? To help, like, let's just say, like, for example, helping out clients that are looking. I really underestimated the amount of time it takes to service clients, okay? It literally takes forever. So like sending the properties, doing this, scheduling, boom, 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 boom. I mean, I had this experience with leasing, but I did not think it would take this. I really totally forgot about that and did not realize the amount of effort 1 or 2 clients actually take. It takes a lot of effort. So what I didn't take into account is that harvesting will also eventually become part of the job, and it'll be a lot harder to do all of these three things with this fourth thing added, because it's already hard enough on its own to get leads and then follow up with them every single day, and then also create content every single day. It's already hard enough to do those three, and then once you add the fact that you have to service all of them, oh my God, it becomes like it becomes like a really challenging and daunting task to actually manage it. And a couple of the days this week, it's been like really hard for me to actually properly door knock 100 doors. I think one of the days I had only 75 doors because I was doing other servicing work and follow-ups in the morning, and it took a little bit extra long. Then I had to come out. I made a comp, and then I had to come out and door knock, and I had reduced time. So it's it's definitely something to keep in mind. It's not bad, obviously. Servicing is good. This is a great thing. Don't take it the wrong way. It's a great problem to have that you have to service clients. I mean, trust me, I'd prefer that problem than having no clients and having just do these three. But it's like you plant all the seeds, you water it, you fertilize it, and no fruits grow. It's just a big tree. It's just an empty tree sitting there. You're like, why? No, you don't want that happening. Obviously, it's a good problem to have. I'm not saying anything wrong with that. But I'm just saying I didn't realize how much work it actually takes to service. I kind of underestimated that. And so moving forward, I need to factor that into my time and factor that into my processes. Like, okay, I will do these three things, but I also have to take into consideration how much time servicing takes. So I need to, at some point, once the equilibrium hits that servicing takes so long, I will have to end up reducing lead generation or somehow shifting things around, because something has to give, right? You only have 24 hours a day, right? And between the four things, it has to, like, servicing it has to be the highest priority, right? Servicing has to be the highest priority. You can't just grow a bunch of stuff and then leave the fruits to decay. It doesn't make any sense, right? Harvesting the fruits and then therefore selling it or whatever, consuming it. Harvesting the fruits is of the utmost priority, right? Otherwise, what was the point of doing all of that work? Nothing. So servicing is the highest priority. And when you have that, it's hard to increase and grow more trees when you're currently harvesting, right? You see what I'm saying? You only have so much time in the day. So that's why I'm definitely taking that into consideration. And moving forward in my plans, I will definitely factor that in. So and I think that's pretty much everything we covered. We covered why iteration is very important over just spending random time, why being more creative is better than just copying other people. We also went over how I've made some changes in my open houses and some iterations and some learnings, and how I'm going to be holding open houses and how I approach open houses in the future. Also, we went over door knocking and a lot of stuff about door knocking and how I'm approaching that and changing it and iterating. And and also I went over some of my content. And I forgot to mention my content. So what am I doing differently with content? Well, in terms of content, I have a new content strategy that is my plan. Okay, this content strategy is that I'm going to film stuff like this, right? And it's going to be about real estate. Wow, this is revolutionary. Okay, I have like some ideas over here, and it's like Zestimates, condo versus home, why you should and shouldn't buy a house, what do you need to buy a house, like stuff like this, right? Very simple ideas, and I'm gonna talk about it for about like 45 seconds for each one. and then I'm going to make them into shorts, and I'm going to post them in my Instagram. But they're not going to be hard to make because they're going to be really easy to make because I'm not going to do very many edits. It's just going to be me talking to a camera, and it's going to be straight, so I'm not going to have to cut it up. It's going to be so much easier. So yeah, if you guys are watching my Instagram, keep on the lookout. Okay, and then I have been very consistent so far with my content, as in so I've been making sure to actually post once a day on Instagram now, and I have like a kind of a good setup, so I know what to post now. I've been making it very simple for myself so I can actually keep consistently posting. And yeah, I'm going to iterate more on the posting too as time goes on. Again, this is fertilizer. You got to iterate on every single faction. You know, I got to iterate on how I can get more seeds efficiently. I got to iterate on how I can water more efficiently. I got to iterate on how I can fertilize more efficiently with the top-notch fertilizer. So if you get my references, that is what I need to do. All right, I'll see you guys next time. And I think I covered everything. So yeah, bye-bye. Bye.